Hi there guys, welcome to Such Is Life, a channel dedicated to exploring the mysteries and complexities of life and philosophy revolving around it. On this channel, we will delve into a variety of topics related to life and how we live it, including personal growth, relationships, and the search for meaning and purpose. Whether you are a seasoned philosopher or just starting to think about the big questions in life, we hope you will join us on this journey of discovery and self-exploration. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the mysteries of life together. Identity is a complex concept that has fascinated philosophers for centuries. What makes us who we are? Is it our memories, our physical bodies, or something deeper and more intangible? These questions are at the heart of the classic philosophical thought experiment known as the Ship of Theseus. The thought experiment asks us to consider a ship whose parts are gradually replaced over time. If every part of the ship is eventually replaced, is it still the same ship? And if not, at what point did it become a different ship? These questions challenge our understanding of identity and the persistence of the self. As we explore this thought experiment, we are forced to ask the right questions about what makes us who we are. Is there a core self that persists over time, or is our identity constantly changing? And if our identity is indeed fluid, what implications does this have for how we live our lives? Join us on a journey through the Ship of Theseus thought experiment, as we navigate the complexities of personal identity and the nature of change. Through this exploration, we may gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world, and come to new insights about the nature of the self. The Ship of Theseus thought experiment has a long and rich philosophical history dating back to ancient Greece. The thought experiment is named after the famous Greek hero Theseus, who according to legend sailed on a ship known as the Ship of Theseus. The earliest recorded reference to this thought experiment comes from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who lived around 500 BCE. Heraclitus is said to have posed the question, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." This idea of constant change and flux was a fundamental part of Heraclitus' philosophy and can be seen as a precursor to the Ship of Theseus thought experiment. The thought experiment itself is typically attributed to the ancient Greek philosopher Plutarch, who lived in the 1st century CE. Plutarch describes the Ship of Theseus in his essay The Soul, on progressing and regressing, and poses the question of whether the ship would still be the same ship if every part of it were replaced. The Ship of Theseus thought experiment has been the subject of much philosophical debate over the centuries, with many notable philosophers weighing in on the question of identity and persistence over time. Some of the most prominent philosophers to explore this thought experiment include Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, John Locke, and David Hume. The thought experiment has also been referenced in literature and popular culture, with notable examples including the novel Ship of Theseus by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst, and the film Blade Runner 2049. Which explores questions of identity and continuity through the character of a replicant. The basic premise of this thought experiment goes along the lines of this. Imagine a ship, let's call it the Ship of Theseus. This ship has been sailing for many years and has weathered countless storms, and as a result, many of its parts have been replaced over time. The central question is, if every single part of the Ship of Theseus is eventually replaced, is it still the same ship? At first glance, this question might seem like a simple one. After all, a ship is just a collection of parts, right? But as we delve deeper into the thought experiment, it becomes clear that the question of identity is far more complex than it first appears. One way to approach this question is to consider the Ship of Theseus as a metaphor for personal identity. Expanding on the Ship of Theseus as a metaphor for personal identity, we can see that our bodies and minds undergo a constant process of change, much like the ship. Our cells, tissues, and organs are replaced over time, and our experiences and memories shape us into the people we are today. But the question remains, what makes us who we are? Is there some core aspect of our identity that persists over time, or are we constantly evolving and changing? One perspective is that personal identity is a matter of continuity, meaning that we are the same person as long as there is a continuous chain of events and experiences that link our past selves with our present selves. According to this view, even if every single part of the Ship of Theseus is replaced, it would still be the same ship because it has a continuity of history and purpose. Similarly, if we can trace a continuous chain of events and experiences from our past selves to our present selves, we can consider ourselves to be the same person. For example, imagine a person who has gone through significant changes in their life, such as moving to a new country, changing careers, and experiencing a major personal loss. Despite these changes, if there is a continuity of purpose and identity throughout their life, such as a commitment to helping others or a love for learning, we can consider them to be the same person. However, this view of personal identity is not without its critics. These critics argue that personal identity is not simply a matter of continuity, but also about the subjective experiences and sense of self that we have. According to this view, we are not just the sum total of our past experiences and memories, but also the product of our unique perspective on the world and our place in it. In this sense, personal identity is not just a matter of what has happened to us, but also about how we experience ourselves and our relationships with others. For example, our sense of self may be shaped by our values, beliefs, and goals, as well as our experiences of joy, love, and suffering. From this perspective, the Ship of Theseus thought experiment can be seen as an inadequate metaphor for personal identity, as it does not take into account the subjective experience of the ship's crew or the way in which they perceive the ship's identity. In other words, if the crew of the ship perceives it as a different ship after every replacement, then it is a different ship, regardless of any continuity in its physical parts. Moreover, some argue that personal identity is not just about our sense of self, but also about our relationships with others. Our identity is not just a matter of what happens to us, but also of our connections with family, friends, and communities. This social dimension of identity is often overlooked in discussions of personal identity, but it is crucial to understanding who we are as individuals. So how do we conclude this? The Ship of Theseus thought experiment is a prime example of how personal identity can be a complex and multifaceted concept. While some people may argue that continuity is the key factor in determining personal identity, others believe that our sense of self and subjective experiences also play a significant role. Those who argue for continuity argue that if there is a continuous chain of events and experiences that link our past selves with our present selves, then we are the same person. This means that even if every single part of the Ship of Theseus is replaced, it would still be the same ship because there is a continuity of its history and purpose. On the other hand, those who argue for the importance of our sense of self and subjective experiences believe that personal identity is not just a matter of what has happened to us but also about how we experience ourselves and our place in the world. In this sense, even if every single part of the Ship of Theseus is replaced, it would not be the same ship because there is no sense of self that persists through the changes. The debate between continuity and our sense of self is a fundamental one when it comes to understanding personal identity. It touches on fundamental philosophical questions about what makes us who we are and whether there is a core aspect of our identity that persists over time. However, it is important to recognize that personal identity is not a fixed concept and can be influenced by a variety of factors. It is shaped by our past experiences, our current perspective, and our relationships with others. Therefore, while the Ship of Theseus thought experiment provides an insightful starting point for exploring personal identity, we must be willing to consider other perspectives and factors that may play a role in defining who we are as individuals. Ultimately, personal identity is a multifaceted concept that cannot be reduced to a single factor. It is shaped by our past experiences, our current perspective, and our relationships with others. As such, we should be cautious about making sweeping generalizations about what constitutes personal identity and recognize that it is a deeply personal and subjective experience. At the same time, the Ship of Theseus thought experiment can also serve as a reminder of the importance of embracing change and adaptation in our lives. Just as the ship's parts are constantly being replaced, we too must be willing to let go of old patterns and embrace new opportunities in order to grow and evolve as individuals. In this sense, the Ship of Theseus thought experiment can serve as a moral lesson about the value of resilience and flexibility in the face of change. By embracing these qualities, we can not only navigate the challenges of life with greater ease, but also continue to grow and develop as individuals in meaningful ways. So there you go, folks. Thanks for joining us on Such Is Life channel for this brief thought experiment. We hope that you have enjoyed exploring the mysteries and complexities of life and philosophy with us. Remember, life is a journey of self-discovery and personal growth, and there is always more to learn and discover. We encourage you to continue thinking deeply about the big questions in life and to seek out new experiences and perspectives that can help you to grow and evolve. We look forward to sharing more insights and ideas with you on future episodes of Such Is Life. If you like the content, we would love to hear your comments below, and remember to have a healthy discussion so we all can benefit together. We would appreciate it if you could share, like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be updated with our upcoming thought-provoking discussions on this channel. One small gesture from you means the world to us as we try to navigate our own YouTube life. Until next time, guys, take care and keep exploring the mysteries of life.